Ghost of Yotei is brutal, beautiful, and not quite what we expected. We finished the game on the PlayStation 5 Pro, tested every weapon, explored every region, and lived through Atsu's full story of revenge. And thanks to Sony for sending us an early copy. This is the successor to Ghost of Tsushima, but it carves its own path in the Edo period. Some parts left us stunned and others wanting more, so today we're going to break down the full experience. There will of course be no spoilers here, we'll only show early gameplay and trailers, so don't worry about anything like that. Ghost of Yotei does take place in 1603 at the start of the Edo period, long after the Mongol invasion of the story of Ghost of Tsushima. The story this time follows Atsu, a woman whose whole family was slaughtered 16 years earlier to the start of the game by the Yōtei Six, a group of infamous outlaws led by Lord Saito. Left for dead and pinned to a burning tree, she did survive, and now she's on a bloody path for revenge. The premise is immediately compelling. In many ways, it kind of feels like Arya from Game of Thrones, a single-minded quest for vengeance against those who have wronged her. Atsu herself has this sort of mercenary cowboy energy. She's raw, fearless, and always ready to throw herself into a fight, even against the odds when surrounded by enemies. With the backstory and the setup, it really makes every encounter with the Yōtei Six feel emotionally charged and intense. The story is a complete revenge tale, but because of this, it does sometimes feel a little one-noted compared to Tsushima's more layered narrative. That said, it actually works thematically. Atsu embodies the idea of an oniro, a vengeful spirit from Japanese folklore who cannot rest until their grudge is settled. Her relentlessness and raw style perfectly reflects this sort of archetype. But that is also where things do fall short a little bit in how the game builds around her journey. You see, Jin's story in Tsushima worked because we experienced his rise from being beaten down and humbled to gradually mastering his skills. In contrast, Atsu feels powerful right from the start, with her training and growth mostly brushed over in flashbacks or optional content. It's hard not to compare her character to Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn, where we got to see her childhood, her training, and her development firsthand. That really made Aloy feel more nuanced and believable, and Yōtei does miss a similar opportunity here with Atsu. The revenge narrative also brings to mind the Blue Samurai series on Netflix, which was fantastic and pulled off a similar plotline, but with a bit more nuance and better pacing. Yōtei does, however, absolutely nail the big cinematic moments, the atmospheric duels, large-scale battles, emotional decisions, but in between those, it sometimes feels a bit predictable. That said, the performance carries a lot of weight. The voice acting is excellent, the cutscenes are cinematic, and the supporting cast have a great set of personalities that keeps the story engaging. The campaign itself runs about 20 to 25 hours if you just play the main path, but there's easily over 50 hours of content if you dive into all of the side activities. And these are well integrated whether you play them mid-story or even after the credits roll. Overall, Atsu's tale is brutal and stylish, a real spectacle to play. But compared to Tsushima, it does lack some of the same depth and variety in its themes. The story does, however, work best as a backdrop for the game's incredible world and gameplay. So let's talk about the gameplay, because this is where Ghost of Yotei shines. If you love the mechanics of Tsushima, it's more of that but dialed up. There's more activities, new tools, and fresh systems that make the open world feel dynamic and alive. One standout mechanic is the new clue or card system. Instead of being fed objectives through static menus, you organically gather information out in the world. NPCs can approach you with rumors and points of interest, encounters happen randomly out in the field and even at your camp, and it feels immersive and makes the world feel reactive, which is a huge step forward for an open world designed game. The map itself is incredibly well paced, it's dense with rewarding activities, like bounties, wolf dens, altars, songs to learn, crafting, hidden shrines, and more. And everything gives you something meaningful, whether it's gear, tools, or skill points. So exploration feels consistently rewarding without any stretches of big dead space. Camping also adds another layer, letting you cook for buffs, craft ammo, meet travelers who give you rumors about nearby points of interest, and more. It's a smart system that encourages resting and immersion in between missions. The game also makes excellent use of the DualSense controller's features. From the HD rumble syncing with the soundtrack to motion controls used in forging weapons or cooking, it pulls you deeper into the experience, although some of these things can get a bit repetitive, but you can skip them. Progression is also rich with different skill trees, armor upgrades, and lots of cosmetics. You've got plenty of variety in the masks, the dyes, the hats, and the weapon kits, and the tools and weapons are plentiful too. You have smoke bombs, kunai, bows, eventually firearms, including a flintlock pistol, which honestly reminded me of Assassin's Creed Black Flag in the best way possible. Traversal and riding also feels improved overall. The horses have new mechanics like flower trails for speed boosts and even charges later on. Fast travel is also lightning fast, at least on the PlayStation 5 Pro, which makes exploring completely stress-free. And I have to highlight the menus and UI because they are extremely well executed, being well organized and gorgeous and stylish. All in all, the gameplay loop is packed, rewarding, and full of small touches that really pushes the immersion element forward. The combat itself, however, does stick to the don't fix what isn't broken philosophy. It has the basics from Tsushima, but instead of stances, Atsu has an arsenal of different weapons. A katana, dual katanas, a Yari spear, and Kusarigama. Each weapon works in a triangle system where certain enemies are countered more effectively by certain weapons, much like how stances functioned in the original. The weapons are unlocked through optional side missions and training missions, which double as some of the best storytelling moments. It's absolutely worth seeking them out before diving too much into the new regions. And the combat itself actually feels a bit more unforgiving this time. Enemies can two-shot you with quick combos that sometimes come in from off-screen, which can feel a little cheap. But on the flip side, finishers and animations are brutal. This time around, Atsu's style is much more raw and savage, reflecting on her self-taught background, compared to Jin's more precise samurai discipline and elegance in his fighting style. Attacks also have more variety now, with bluey-white flashes requiring a timed block, red attacks must be dodged, and new yellow attacks will actually disarm you, forcing you to recover your weapon. These can be countered with a charged heavy strike at the right moment though, and the skill trees expand each weapon with unique combos and finishers, so exploration is key to unlocking your full toolkit. Stealth can also be extremely satisfying too. You have ways to distract, assassinate, even chain assassinate, but you do have to invest in the assassin skill tree to fully unlock the potential of this playstyle, but if you do, you will very much more so feel like the Ghost once again. Overall, combat is tense, very skill-based, and visually spectacular, although with Jin's more samurai style of fighting and stances, it does feel like a little bit of the samurai power fantasy is lost here. Now let's touch on the world because the presentation is phenomenal. The landscapes are cinematic with a dynamic camera that shifts aspect ratio and fades the UI while you ride, making simple travel moments look and feel like something out of a film. The world itself is alive with dynamic encounters as well. NPCs can ambush you for the bounty on Atsu's head, or lead you to hidden camps and treasures after being defeated. These random events keep exploration unpredictable, somewhat similar to Red Dead Redemption 2, which we love. Exploration is also aided by maps that you can buy, which show you where collectibles, points of interest, and secrets are located, and you have to manually line them up on your own map, which makes for a clever little puzzle system. Traversal and parkour does feel much like Tsushima. It's still fun, especially in areas with grapple hooks and vertical routes. Combined with the cinematic visuals, it's a joy to just wander and lose yourself in Ezo. The soundtrack is also very strong, although not as instantly iconic as Tsushima's. The main theme for Yōtei does stand out, but overall it feels like there's a few less memorable bangers, but what is impressive is how tightly the audio is tied to the gameplay. Atsu's shamisen is used throughout the game, with you learning and performing new songs as you progress. When you combine this with the controller features, the game's sound design feels alive and physical. For the graphics, well, this is a gorgeous game. The foliage, the lighting, the weather effects are all pretty much jaw-dropping. The character animations are also very much improved over Tsushima's, and the various vistas, snowy peaks, and coastal sunsets all look incredible. Performance is also solid. Across our time with the game, we didn't encounter any crashes or serious dips. Because this is such a combat-heavy game, we do strongly recommend playing on a 60 FPS mode, which makes things feel more responsive and fluid. Ghost of Yotei offers various visual modes for this. Quality mode will push the sharpest resolution and details, but at 30 FPS. Performance mode will drop the resolution and give you a smoother 60 FPS. And then the ray tracing performance mode is a standout, combining ray trace lighting and reflections with a steady 60 FPS at a slightly lower resolution, and it is an exclusive mode to the PS5 Pro, which is what we settled playing on. Whatever you pick though, the game runs cleanly, with near instant load screens on the PS5 Pro, and the strong art direction ensures it always looks like a visually great game. So overall, Ghost of Yotei is a solid experience with an amazing world, just with some elements being a bit of a mixed bag. The story, while epic in moments, doesn't have the depth or nuance of Tsushima, but everything else, the gameplay, the combat, the world, the audio, the presentation, is all outstanding. This is an incredibly fun and immersive open-world samurai experience. If you loved Ghost of Tsushima, well, you're probably going to find a ton of things to enjoy here. But that's just our take. What did you guys think of Ghost of Yotei? We'll be back with plenty more on the game soon, so make sure you are subscribed down below so you don't miss out. Here at Arix Gaming, we're two friends who love to play games. You have me, Paradise, as well as 26.
Our goal is to keep the videos as concise as possible by cutting out any of the fluff and focusing on what really matters with high quality videos.
So make sure you're subscribed down below for more videos on your favorite games coming very, very soon.